Now it's time for another Board Game Brawl preview with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com.
Hey now, my name is Nick, this is Board Game Brawl, and today we're going to be taking a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called FreeZeBee Games, and it's from Game R Entertainment. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this video, I would encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page. You only have a couple of weeks left in the project at the time that this video is being published. You can go to the project by clicking on the link at the bottom of your screen now and at the end of this video, and also down in the description section of the video. That'll take you to the page. You can find out even more information than I can go into here about FreeZeBee Games, and hopefully you'll consider backing the project. Now, what are the FreeZeBee games? This is a competitive two-player game that's actually a miniature hex-based game. Each player takes control of a fantasy or science fiction themed team, and you are playing what is essentially fantasy Frisbee. You're going to take control of teams such as the Angels of the Sixth World, the Felidae, the Long Tusks, and the Exo. Every team and every member of that team has their own special abilities, and you have to use those abilities wisely in order to outwit the other team. Your ultimate goal is to have one of your team members sitting in the opponent's end zone with the disc, and if you can do that, you're going to score a point, and the first team to get to 3 points is going to be the winner of the game. Every game of FreeZeBee Games starts with the kickoff, where one team is going to get the disc, and at that point it goes into the attack phase. This is where you're actually trying to move your disc downfield, throwing it to different members of your team and trying to get them into the end zone. And there's very specific mechanisms for how this is going to work. There's a template that comes with the game, the throwing template that is very dependent upon the range of the thrower and that thrower's strength as well. But remember, you're always trying to move around the field, and you're having to do so while the other members of the team are trying to intercept the disc and get it away from you. Now, there's no combat in this game as such, like actually beating people up, which is very distinctly different from other fantasy sports themed games. This is strictly about trying to outwit your opponent and keeping him in check to keep him from throwing accurately to the other members of his team. And that's why all the different team members have different strengths that are going to keep you from moving away easily from them just by sort of blocking them out from completing their throw. Now, given that this is an active game, you need to always be aware of what your opponents are doing. They may try to intercept the disc on its way to the end zone. On top of which, if you screw up and the disc accidentally drops to the ground, you're not able to catch it, or if it goes out of bounds, it could end up in the hands of your opponent, and you don't want that to happen. At the same time, you need to be aware of all of your team members' strengths and weaknesses, because they all have different special abilities, powers, moves, and skill ratings that are going to help you with the test necessary in order to complete the interception, or to complete getting the disc to the end zone and successfully scoring for your team. Everything in this game is done with skill checks using the die that come with the game, and depending on your different mastery of whatever you're trying to do in the game, you have to roll a certain number. So the better your team member is at whatever it is, trying to pass a check in order to catch the disc or just throwing, the better chances you're going to have at actually scoring in the game and winning. So I don't want to go into an exhaustive list of all of the rules for FreeZeBee Games, but I do want to talk about a few things that I think make the game interesting and that make it accessible to a wide variety of people. The first thing is that even though when you just look at it, it is a competitive miniatures game with all the different rules you would expect for a competitive miniatures game as far as how movement works, how throwing works, how all these different skill ratings and skill checks, despite all of that, the game is actually very accessible. It's not hard to learn, it's very fast to learn, and you'll get it up and going very quickly, as are matches. Those go quickly as well. So it's, in that regard, it's going to be accessible to a wide variety of gamers from different skill levels, and that's very important for games today. The other thing is that, you know, there are other fantasy sports games, but they're few and far between, and all of them have some common tropes that FreeZeBee Games really avoids. One is the combat. You know, a lot of games are just very visceral in your face, you know, killing the other opponents, which doesn't make a lot of sense as far as an actual game of Frisbee would. This is just fantasy Frisbee, so why should it be that drastically different? So they put a heavy emphasis in FreeZeBee Games on actually the spirit of the game, you know, trying to be the best competitor and getting the disc downfield. And so I think that's going to be very important too when I talk about the accessibility of the game, because it's going to appeal to a wide age range audience. You don't have to worry about the game being too violent, and people can really get into that type of theme. Together, by the way, speaking of the theme, with those fantasy teams like the Felidae, and I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly, the feline team, and the angel team, and the exoskeleton female team, those are really very diverse teams, all with their own different set of special abilities. So that also means that you have a lot of replayability here, because you can always try out a team with different sets of abilities. And on the Kickstarter page, you actually have add-ons to get different things to enhance the game and to increase that variability in the game as well. So I really think the game is going to be popular with a lot of people for those reasons. People that want, there's not a ton of sports board games out there that are of a high quality, so you might definitely want to check this one out, because together with the fantasy theme and the science fiction theme, and the fact that one thing I haven't even mentioned really as a whole is that while there's other fantasy sports games, all of them are based off of sports like football or soccer. How many of them are based off of FreeZeBee? So that's a very interesting thing there as well. And if that sounds like something that appeals to you, if you like what you saw in this video, if you like what you see on the Kickstarter project page, I hope that you would consider backing the project and really helping them to meet their goal, and encourage making more and more games that have unique themes like this and that are accessible to a wide variety of people. You can go to the link at the bottom of this screen, and then down in the description section of the video. That's going to take you to the official Kickstarter project page. Find out more information about FreeZeBee Games and hopefully consider backing the project. That is FreeZeBee Games from Game R Productions. My name is Nick. This has been Board Game Brawl, and I'm reminding you to get out there and game every day and in every way. Take care.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.